Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to Dorian's DIY. Sorry it's been so long since I dropped a video for you guys. I had a birthday. Wife took me up to the White Mountains up in New Hampshire for just about a week. And then I came home for just about a week, got back to work, get things squared away just in time for me to go on a cruise. So I'm back on vacation again, but I am editing videos for you guys, and I'm going to schedule a bunch of stuff to be dropped. Anyway, check this out, y'all. It's pretty dope. So, this is a cruise ship to the side of us called the Pride that we took my son on at the beginning of the year for his birthday. And we're here at, let's jump up. We're here at, what do they call this island there? Celebration Keys. This is in the Grand Bahamas, actually the island that Freeport's on. Not too good with my geographicals down here, but this is the brand new joint right here, and we're gonna go check that out. But I promise you guys that I'm gonna have a bunch of stuff coming out, and I'll catch up on the stuff that I lacked on. Anyway, this
for crew only, for drill only. Crew alert! Crew alert! Crew alert! Crew must proceed to their emergency duty stations. Once again, for crew only, for drill only.
Okay, so sorry about that real quick, y'all. But this video here, I'm gonna go over how to pick crossovers, and we want to figure out, or I want to show you guys how to pick crossovers when you're blending your subwoofers into your mid basses, right? And then eventually what we're going to do is we're going to go in from mid basses on up. But I have to break this stuff up because I do want to try to give you a pretty good representation of what you need to do. Some guys will go through it really quick, and that's good if you grasp on really quick. But the DIY, I want to help you guys who are looking to figure this stuff out, or want a little bit more clarification, because we do get a lot of people in the groups that have an idea, but they're looking for clarification. And some of that is just you guys being very timid on taking a step with the equipment that you have and making that investment. Anyway, I hope you guys really like and enjoy this one. It's a kind of a quick one, but we will be back with more later. All right, y'all. Peace. Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to Dorian's DIY audio. So today what we're going to do is we're going to go over how to pick crossover points for your speakers without using any type of measuring equipment, right? And this is going to be, I'm going to break this up into two parts, try to make this as quick as possible. But the first part is going to be how to figure where to set your crossover points when you have a subwoofer and blending into your mid bass, right? Let's get over to subwoofers. Now, and the reason I'm starting with subwoofers here is because most of the time when people first get into car audio, the first thing they do is they want to add some bass to their stereo, right? And with a lot of, especially these new cars, you can just add a subwoofer to your system and it will sound great. Now, here's a couple caveats real quickly. One, you can't go adding no big old honking, let's just go pull up a Sundown subwoofer real quick. Sundown audio, pow, Sundown. You can't go adding no subwoofer like this here and expect to be running, keeping up with your factory speakers, right? You can't, not even like two of these 10s, 3200 watts or whatever, but you could possibly run, a couple of these E-series, right? Two 10s or 115 or, the SA classics. You could probably run like 110, 12, 15 and still be able to keep up with your stereo. And I'm gonna kind of help you figure out how you can make that work. Let's start here real quickly. What is considered sub bass in a sound system or audio system? Okay, and this is just something I pulled here off of Google, as you can see, right? Quick, easy, and the lowest frequencies and the bass spectrum generally between 20 hertz to 60 hertz. Um, and I agree with that. Okay. I know a lot of people love this 80 hertz, and that's fine too. 100 hertz, people do that. I've seen like the Spanish guys, Mexicans in them, they like to go as high as I've seen as like 120 hertz, and that's because of the type of music that they listen to. They want that really strong, rich mid bass, right? And it really does work for them. But for myself, obviously you can go below 20 hertz, right, on the spectrum. But the thing is that they call that subsonic, and you start to lose audible information. Even though you get the impression that you're hearing things, it's really rolling off, if that makes any sense to you guys there. So the sound spectrum is between 20 hertz and 20,000 hertz, and that's the very best scenario. But back here on this, so yeah, 20 hertz to, let's say, 120 hertz. Now, myself, I typically like to set my low pass around the 60 or lower. That's just my preference, right? You don't have to agree with that. It's fine. And if I'm doing any tuning or anything for you, I won't do that to you. I'll make sure you like what you're getting. So I really do agree with this statement here, and that's pretty valid. Uh, what is considered mid bass in stereo? Okay, now frequency range between approximately 80 and 300 hertz. Yes, I agree with that. Uh, there's a caveat that I have that might be a little controversial to some people. I know a lot of people say mid bass. I got mid bass, and these are mid basses. Not to pick on PRV, all right, but they say these are mid basses, right? But let's go ahead and look at their first off. This is what they recommend: 90 or 95 hertz crossover. Okay. And then I like to really go off FS, your free air resonance, and 86. So you could play that a little lower. You just can't use the big power on it, right? Myself, when we go to mid bass, let's go back here. When we go to mid bass, um, yes, this is through the frequency range, but for me, myself, a mid bass should have a FS somewhere around 40 hertz. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to tune it down to 40 hertz, but you want a woofer that's going to be able to play that range down there, okay? Even if you set this to 80 hertz, man, that's really my opinion. 80 hertz to me is really kind of I know it's not mid range, but like if 80 hertz is the bottom, like the very lowest I can play on a mid bass, I'm going to kind of consider that to be more of a mid range. All right. Now, if you're doing, well, let's just continue on. So then what is considered mid ranges? All right. Mid range here, they're saying typically considered to be between 300 hertz to 500 hertz. Um, Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. The only thing on my end is I would say you can move this down. closer to 200. Uh, and you can move this up to almost, yeah, you can leave that in this area. Maybe, yeah, the 5,000 is fine, right? Somewhere around 5,000 is fine. And other than that, I don't really have any argument on it. Some mid rangers will play down, 125, whatever. And also, sorry, for your mid ranges, depending on the size of your driver, usually depends on how low the lower end is going to be, right? So if you had a 2.5 inch driver, yeah, you probably can cross it at 300. But if you had a 4, you probably can cross it at 200, right? And if you have a 6, well, then obviously that's why you see those mid rangers, you're able to cross them down like this one. You're able to cross it down in that region of 95, 90, 95 hertz, right? So now let's go ahead and take a look at what they consider to be high frequencies. All right. And I'm just kind of going through these spectrums here so that you kind of get a clear understanding of the window of sound. Okay. So for treble or high frequencies, they consider that to be 2,000 hertz to 20,000 and beyond, right? High res, I forget what they consider that. I think it's like 40K or 30 something K and up or whatever. Like I said, best case scenario, you can hear 20K. And that would pretty much mean if you can hear somewhere close to 20K, you're probably a small, petite female. All right. Most men, I think, struggle to get close to 17 hertz. And the older you get, the more that rolls off. That's just the way life works until they're able to figure something out. So, um, so let's look at, I want to go over, so I want to go over some mid basses, and these are the mid basses that I have myself, right? I just picked this setup here. I did get it used. I got it for a smoking deal. You can see that video if you want to check that out. But let's look at here. Now, I know I said 40 hertz. If you're looking at this woofer, it says that the frequency response is between 55 to 22,000. And if we come here and look at this is the actual woofer, not the whole set. The FS on that is 55 hertz. You can play a little bit lower, as I said, maybe 50 hertz, and that's fine, right? But it's not as low as I really like. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't pull up the Infinity set that I have in my truck currently. Did I? Or did I? Did I? Or did I? I didn't. Let's go ahead and pull that up real quick. Okay. So here's the Infinity set that I have in there right now, right? They say it's no longer available, but you can get this set on Amazon and other places for a very cheap price. I don't know why that's saying. I'm gonna have to look at that. What's that? But anyway, now this is the woofer here, and it's a substantial little banger, dude. They're dope. Anyway, let's go ahead and look at your frequency response here. So you see here the frequency response is 35 hertz, right, up to 35,000, right? Now, I can tell you what, I have these in my truck right now, and I believe they're crossed at like 25 hertz for the high pass. And I'm using them passive, and they just eat. They sound great. I did cut some of the upper bass frequencies out using EQ, but even when I didn't have that option, I was just cutting it on the head unit, and they ate. They sound great. When I pull into my neighborhood, I turn the subwoofer down, and those things are still in there, just flexing, doing their thing, providing bass. I do have some bass up front, and that's the other thing when you have to cut your speakers, when you have to cut the high pass on a speaker like this, which they call a mid bass, right? When you have to cut that all the way up at 95 hertz, um, man, you're really leaving that front bass off of the table. Okay. So here is really quickly, here's another set that I also picked up. That's the tweeter there. I'm trying to find the Wolferoonies. Um, let's see. Speakers. Woofers. I wish. Voce. Here we go. Okay, so now here's another set of I have a three-way set of these. You'll see that video coming out shortly. And man, I don't know if you ever heard some Audisons but they sound really good, just like those vocals sound really good too. I did get these on a pretty great deal also. I pretty much bought the whole set of three woofers. I don't know why three, but three woofers, two mid ranges, and the tweeters for $100. I was really looking to just buy the mid ranges themselves. But back to the woofer here. If we can see here now, this is saying an FS of 68, right? And tell you the truth, chances are in my truck, this woofer is more than likely not going to be used. I may install it just to shoot some RTA on it, see how it sounds, so on and so forth. But this is probably not going to be used in this vehicle here, and that's because I would have to cross those over at 70, let's say even 65, which I might be able to get away with 60, 65. But X Max on it and stuff, there's not much. 3 millimeters X Max, you're not going to get much movement out of that. If we came back over to these, I don't know if it tells me how much X Max. Sometimes you could find the manuals in here. All right, let's see if we could find the X Max 90s, and then all right. So yeah, they don't tell you the X Max in this, but I'm gonna leave this up because we need to come back to this number here at some point. Let's go over and look at how we do this in the DSP because I basically went over how this was done on the amplifiers in the past video. But let's go here and let's look at if you're give you an idea, a visual idea. So if you're using a DSP, then and you are setting your base high pass. So let's say you were, let's bring this to 0, okay? And let's bring this to, let's just do everybody's fun 80. and then we'll move that to 24 dB slope. That's what everybody likes, right? Um, and I'm just doing that to kind of keep this simple. Now, um, this is fairly indicative of how my system is. Just I believe I'm down somewhere around 65 or 60 hertz, maybe even 55, right? But we'll just bring it back to 80 um, for today's example. Um, now, when it comes to subwoofers, if you have a ported, right? Either these style ported or this style ported, or even if you're running IB, even if you're running IB, you might still choose to set a what they call a subsonic filter, and that is also a high pass filter, right? So you can see they call it a high pass here, and that is going to help save your subwoofer from bottoming out and overextending itself, right? That is also known as a subsonic filter, right? Now, your subsonic filter uh, goes off of your port tuning, right? Now, let's say you tuned your port at 20 hertz. Let's just say 40 hertz, right? At 40 hertz, you divide it by two, and that gives you 20, and then you divide that by two again, and that gives you 10. So you'll set, if your box is tuned to 40 hertz, you'll set your um, high pass or your subsonic to 30 hertz, right? That's rule of thumb. Now, here's the deal. I particularly don't ever use a subsonic on mine, and I equate that to being kind of like the team fuse, no fuse type deal. Even though I use fuses, I never had an issue where I needed one to go. I don't even know. I've blown a few here and there, but um, I don't use subsonics when I'm doing other people's vehicles. I will set them up with a subsonic if I deem that necessary, and if I don't, then we'll make sure they understand the benefits and the repercussions of not using a subsonic filter or a high pass filter. So anyway, I'm going to do this how I do mine. We're going to shut that off, right? And we got the low pass here for the subwoofers at 80 hertz. Okay. Now, one thing in a DSP you want to be careful is you have different types um, of filters, right? So that's the Linkridge Riley. That's your Buttersworth. Now, be careful. Pay attention on the subwoofers. It don't really make much of a difference. I mean, it does. Your sound profile is going to be different, but you really want to be careful when you get into your tweets and stuff like that, right? But let's just go back to Linkridge Riley, and then let's go ahead and add in some mid bass. All right, and I don't know why I got that. Oh, there we go. Okay, so mid bass. So we're gonna take this and we're gonna move the mid bass up to 80 hertz, and we're going to. I'm gonna bring this all the way up to 5,000, just as an example. Okay, so now here we are. We have our 80 hertz for our front, woofers, right? And even if you have a two-way or a three-way, this number still matters, right? Because you're going to be, if it's a two-way, you're just going to be playing setting this number here, your high pass, and then letting it go all the way up to 20K, right? Unless for some reason you like to muffle it down or whatever, but that's an oddity. So let's go ahead and look at having. Let's go ahead and look at adding a subwoofer and trying to blend a subwoofer in with this. So here we go. The subwoofer is set at 80 hertz, right? 24 dB slope. And then I got those backwards. And then the mid bass is set at 80 hertz, 48 dB slope. Both of them Linkage Riley. Now let's look at these together so you can see where things are going wrong here. Now, typically you don't want to have these slopes look like this. You see how one is shaped this way and one shaped that way. Okay, that is going to kind of play with the blending of the sound and not be a smooth transition. And even though if you measured this, the subwoofer is gonna group way up higher than your mid basses and everything else. Let's just look at it here in the DSP. You want that to be fairly the same. So what we're gonna do is on high pass there, we're gonna take this and we're gonna change that to 24. Oh, sorry, my bad. 24, 24. Where am I going wrong here? Oh, there we go. Nope. There we go. What's going on here? There we go. All right. So now you can see that both of these slopes look the same. And then what that means is your subwoofer's rolling off because it's not going to go to 80 hertz and like stop playing music. At 80 hertz, it's going to be rolling off 3 dB, right? So 3 decibel, that's what they consider a roll, half the volume is 3 dB. So if you turn this up to from 3 dB to 6 dB, that is going to be considered twice as loud, right? And then from 6 dB to 9 dB will be twice as loud from then. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, you really don't want to run into the instance where you're having different slopes, right? Because it's gonna add a bump or a null in that sound. Now, of course, you're gonna adjust it how you want to, and to be honest, if you're tuning by ear, you might find playing around with these might actually work for you. But I'm just giving you kind of some rule of thumbs. So anyway, I hope you kind of got that and also know really quickly when we go back to the subwoofer, don't be afraid to move don't be afraid to move this number around. You don't have to stay with 80 hertz like most people recommend, especially if you have a DSP. Just kind of move it down, 5 hertz at a time and see what you like, right? You might find that you like it a little lower and that you either don't mind this being a little bit of a void, or you can come over here and you can move that down to match this here, or whatever that one was. So you can bring that down to match that there, right? And that would just make your woofer in your door, or let's just say your door, because that's typically where it's going to be mounted. Some BMWs and stuff's under the seat, right? But that will have that play a little bit lower, and that will, if your system can handle it, that's going to also bring the bass back up front. So anyway, I hope you really enjoyed this. I hope this broke it down for you. If you have any further questions, feel free to hit me up in the comments. Ask me. I'll get back to you on it. Um, and hopefully I helped figure this out. So anyway, sorry it's been so long. I did have a vacation, and I'm going on vacation again. So I'm gonna try to get this all edited up and shipped out to you guys before I split for my cruise. But anyway, until next time, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And as I said, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them down in the question sections. And I try to do my best to keep up on and answer those questions. But until next time, y'all, peace.